Hey guys, Kristen Zaki here, and I am doing my presentation for the final cultural diversity assignment. And the group of people that I chose to present on are the people from Uganda. The reason that I chose that is in 2009 I traveled to Uganda and I loved their culture, the food, the language, and just the attitudes of the locals. For the most part, we were fully immersed into the local cultures, but there were a few things that we engaged in that weren't the norm for the locals. The first thing was we had a driver that took us around in a van. We did stay in the quote unquote bush, which is the local villages, but we stayed in a structured building and we bought bunk beds for us to stay in, and then we ended up donating those to a local home for abused children when we left. Our food was all locally made, but we did have somebody cook it for us, so I was fairly immersed into that society. The living conditions in Uganda, most living conditions are improving in Uganda, but there are still several families that live in unacceptable conditions. You can see in that picture on the left, that is an unacceptable house for that many people, and it could just be they're trying to get out of the rain. They don't all live there, but still for somebody to, or for us to expect somebody to live there, that is unacceptable. However, on the picture on the right, you can see that they are using a stucco type of a structure building with wood in there. So that is a big improvement for the living conditions for some of these people in Uganda. The food in Uganda was probably my most enjoyable part in Uganda. Most Ugandans will eat fruit and vegetables that they pick from the plants and the trees, and then beans and rice are a huge commodity there. On a very special occasion is the only time that a meat will be consumed, and a lot of times the people in Uganda don't eat full meals. They will just go to, like the kids when they go to school, they will see if they can pick some fruit on the way to eat on their way to school or at school. It's not like a meal like we have here in the United States. Education in Uganda. In 1997, the Ugandan government introduced universal primary education, which is the idea that all children should be able to attend primary school for free. Primary school would be like an elementary school. And in 2007, so 10 years after that, the universal secondary education went through, and secondary education would be like high school. And unfortunately, the demand for free education outstrips the availability of places at the free government schools, and it is not uncommon for classes to have well over 100 students for one teacher. And with very limited facilities, they have demotivated, overworked teachers that are running these schools. The culture of Uganda, the national sport of Uganda is football, or soccer as we would call it, and their music, I'm going to play this YouTube video. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but just so you can get an idea of the Ugandan music.
Nakulabye ku maca wabadde ng'onaba mu maaso nze mulinga ndowooza bingi biringa obugulu bw'eggongolo nga mwatusagala ndeke kyokka ng'ogenda kukola nenjagala nkwesibeko naye nga tekisoboka baby.
Okay, so you can see that the style of music is fairly similar to a lot of things that we listen to in the United States. She is speaking in Lugandan, which is the most common language spoken in Uganda. There are several different languages throughout the tribes, but the national language of Uganda is actually English. And that goes back to kind of our reading with other people's children, that some of the missionaries and things like that will come in and we'll make the national language English, even though most people don't speak it. Healthcare in Uganda. Uganda's healthcare performance is still ranked as one of the worst in the world by WHO. The country is ranked 186th out of 191 nations. A Ugandan health and life expectancy is among the lowest across the globe. In Uganda, 1 out of every 200 births end in the mother's death. And around 1 million people are living with HIV, and malaria accounts for 14% of all deaths. However, even though 14% of people die, there's less than 10% of children that are under 5 that are sleeping under insecticide-treated nets. The picture on the right is a picture that I took while we were there. I worked with a local dentist and we helped with dental care for the children there. And you can see we set up outside just like their regular clinics are there. Some of the problems that are facing Ugandans. Uganda has 31 million people, and there's approximately one doctor for every 300,000 people. However, on the same token, there is one administrative leader to every 6 people in Uganda. A presidential advisor earns 908 million Ugandan shillings, which is enough to pay 378 primary school teachers' salaries for a month. So there's a big difference there, and the main problem that people or that other countries are finding is that Uganda's expenditure is very enormous and it's very abnormal. This is a picture of their president, President Museveni. Other problems, the main reason good policies, we need good policies to control the 600 billion Ugandan shillings that go down the drain every year without a trace. But nothing changes because of the huge expenditures on the top leaders and the very poor wages that are paid to its civilian servants, and this has led to a lack of morale within the people. 51% of people in Uganda don't have contact with any public health care facilities, and a well-documented problem has been the chronic shortage of trained professional staff at these healthcare facilities. Some 70% of Ugandan doctors and 40% of the nurses and midwives are based in urban areas, and they only serve about 12% of the Ugandan population. Some highlights of Uganda. What are things that I thought were really interesting about Uganda? The first picture shows a picture of their wildlife. The wildlife in Uganda is extremely diverse and is pretty much untouched. Because they're not building into all those urban areas like we are in the United States. Dance and the cultures that come around with the dance I thought were very interesting as well. I have 3 different pictures on there of local dancing, and then also just the scenery. There were several different rafting areas that we had seen and waterfalls and things like that. So Uganda has a wonderful culture, and it has a very diverse realm of things to do, and it was a lot of fun when I went there. These are my resources, both the images and the websites. Thanks for watching.